bill that passed last night aims to cut $2 trillion. Right. Can you guarantee that Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security will not be touched?
Yeah, I mean, I have said it so many times, you shouldn't be asking me that question. Okay? This will not be read my lips. It won't be read my lips anymore. We're not going to touch it. Now, we are going to look for fraud. I'm sure you're okay with that.
I wouldn't be so sure that any reporter at the White House is okay with looking for fraud, for abuse, for waste. The Democrats are very much in favor of waste, fraud, and abuse. They're just trying to decide which one they like most. They love the waste. They certainly love the fraud. And God knows they love abuse. Abuse really is their thing. Baby. Well. Once again, a good Thursday to you, and welcome back. We continue to be at 888-630-9625. $2 billion to be in the reporterette at the White House, where the president of the White House Correspondents Association, a cross-dressing, transvestite, transsexual Democrat, African-American man, black man, from Politico, now going to MSNBC, and he dresses up like a heck of a Hollywood Boulevard cheerleader, doesn't he? He's the president of the White House Correspondents Association, now apparently an MSNBC anchor man. Do you say anchor man? I guess it'll depend how he's dressed and how closely he's shaved his face, because remarkable stuff going on in our media. Aren't they amazing? $2 billion. But isn't that going to just stop Social Security payments? And what about veterans? They suddenly care about veterans for just a minute. It's a big lie. It's just about doing the monkey wrenching of the Democrat Party for them. Remarkable stuff. And I do love the story that the Daily Caller has today. Turns out top executives of organization picked for billions to be given billions of taxpayer dollars by the Biden EPA. Well, they're a bunch of big-time Democrat Party donors, tens of thousands, no, hundreds of thousands of dollars to the Democrat Party and their causes. And then, hey, surprise, surprise, here's $5 billion for you from the EPA, because you're going to make the weather better, which is going to be nice at your lake house, because, you know, you want to have the weather be nice at your lake house because your boats and all that stuff. Amazing stuff. Yeah, an amazing story from the Daily Caller about a left-wing group called, and it's just ridiculous, the Coalition for Green Capital, and got awarded a $5 billion taxpayer slush fund to reduce greenhouse gas emissions, which they won't do. But never mind that, because the CEO, Reed Hunt, amazing stuff, gave $60,000. Then the new CEO, Richard Kaufman, gave $600,000. And then they got $5 billion from the EPA. Didn't even have to go through Congress. Isn't that great? The Democrats have a money laundering operation. It's called the U.S. government. And the money they launder, taxpayer dollars. Aren't they great? Just wonderful. And that's okay. Now, the reporter asked President Trump, what about the $2 billion? Social Security. And he said, you know, I've answered this question so many times. And he has, again and again and again. It's the Democrat Party talking point. So the fake reporters at the White House and beyond, Capitol Hill, they do the same thing. They just toe the Democrat Party line. They parrot the talking points. Doesn't matter how many times the president or the Speaker of the House or Treasury Secretary says, no, Social Security is not going to be affected. They just keep hammering the same nail, pounding the same nail over and over again. Completely ridiculous. And President Trump trying to, you know, we have trillions and trillions, 36 trillion in national debt. If we start paying it off now at $1 a second, it'd take us more than 1 million years to pay it off, because 36 trillion seconds is more than 1 million years. But never mind that. The Democrats are trying to obstruct and monkey wrench everything, usually through the courts, but to the extent they can do it in Congress or through their corrupt allies in the news media, they'll take that too. CNN very upset today because the Chief Justice of the United States, John Roberts, pauses order for Trump administration to pay $2 billion in foreign aid by midnight. Got its midnight deadline, like it's a Clint Eastwood Western movie. Chief Justice John Roberts, Wednesday, paused a court-imposed midnight deadline that would have required the Trump administration to release $2 billion in frozen foreign aid. Maybe take it out of the $5 billion that the left-wing Democrat donor environmental group got. What do you think? It's all a slush fund. We can just move it around like checkers on a checkers board, aren't we? Can't wait. That's amazing. So $2 billion in frozen foreign aid, a goal that the government has claimed it is unable to meet. The government, CNN is speaking for the government. Wait a minute. Isn't the Trump administration in charge of the federal government right now in the executive branch? But at CNN, they don't acknowledge that based on this lead sentence. The emergency appeal marks the first time President Donald Trump's efforts to drastically remake the federal government, including with deep cuts across government agencies, have reached the nation's highest court. The case appears likely to put the justices on a collision course with Trump's sweeping efforts to consolidate power within the executive branch. That's the CNN right-through on this. That is just complete hooey. That's first of all, he is the president. They have control over the executive branch. They don't have to consolidate power within the executive branch. They have the power of the executive branch. It's Article 2 powers, the Constitution. Roberts, the Chief Justice, his order does not resolve the underlying question raised by the case. Rather, it imposed what is known as an administrative stay to give the court a few days to review written arguments in the case. Roberts is the justice designated to handle emergency cases from the Federal Appeals Court in Washington, D.C. Now, here's the thing. This was a U.S. District Judge Amir Ali, appointed by Joe Biden, who opposed a temporary order requiring that money must continue to flow while he considers the case. So the president and the executive branch want to put a freeze on money going to this left-wing operation, USAID, and they get, naturally, a Biden-appointed judge named Amir Ali to say, oh, no, Trump can't do that. Goes to the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court Chief Justice says, yes, they can, right? But never mind that. Also, Donald Trump starts first cabinet meeting with opening prayer from Scott Turner. And this really upset the Democrats. Wait, a prayer? Haven't seen that in the White House in a long time because, Joe Biden, dog is his co-pilot, right? And because this cabinet meeting took place yesterday at the White House and it was full of fun stuff, I want to share some of that with you. And in fact, I just mentioned this, that the headline is that they opened with a prayer. Very upset. It sounded like this.
Lord God, we pray that we would lead with a righteous clarity. Father God, that as we serve the people of this country in every prospective agency, every job that we have, Father, we would humble ourselves before you and we would lead in the manner that you've called us to lead and to serve. Father, the Bible says that blessed is the nation whose God is the Lord. Well, Father, we today honor you. And in your rightful place, Father, thank you for giving us this opportunity to restore faith in this country and be a blessing to the people of America.
And the left, again, very upset about this. Prayer. What about separation of church and state? They're really, remember the high school coach in Washington State liked to say a prayer after a football game, thanking God that his kids weren't hurt, and they dragged him all the way to the Supreme Court, demanding that he couldn't do that because they're godless commies, and quite amazing. So prayer, great stuff by Scott Turner, the Secretary of Housing and Urban Development, Cabinet Secretary there in the cabinet meeting, and he opened with a prayer, and honestly, the Democrats are angry about this. Why are they angry about this? Well, they're angry about everything. They're mentally ill. They're godless commies and genderless, too. and I think most of them cross-dress. Wah, wah, wah. President Trump at the cabinet meeting saying it is his goal, his mission to unleash American energy as he did last time around as president, and American energy independence. The Democrats are against it.
We've unleashed American energy at levels that will soon be reported, but we think we're going to get it going very quickly. We have incredible people on the energy front. I think we have really great people on every front. I'll let you know if they're not good, but I think they really are. And we're fighting every day to get the prices down. The inflation is stopping slowly.
Get prices down. Inflation stopping slowly. Joe Biden drove inflation to over 9%, and the press applauded him. I think they blamed Trump, didn't they? Blamed Trump for the weather, when they're not blaming the Jews for the weather. Oh, yeah, we'll get to them attacking the Jews in New York, which they did yesterday, taking over a building at a fancy private college campus. They're not on the side of civilization. They're the left. Nobody should vote for these people ever again. Honestly, energy independence. The Democrats are against it. Now, this is a really fun one. This is a fun story, I've got to say. The gold card. President Trump and his gold card. Turns out we have a method by which wealthy people who wish to immigrate to the United States can kind of help make things easier for them with a type of immigrant visa that we have. It's called the EB-5, like Echo Bravo 5, EB-5. And it helps if you're a very wealthy person, you want to immigrate to the United States. President Trump has got a new plan to help pay off our deficits and maybe even our debt if the Democrats don't obstruct it too much, by offering a gold card option. If you have $5 million, how many Chinese will be able to do this? $5 million, you can come in and get the gold card visa. And then they're talking about, and Elon Musk was there. Democrats very upset about that, too. The room was, you only have so many cabinet members, and then you got deputy cabinet members sitting behind them in a row. It's always been thus. And they're pretending like it's, the conclave where they vote for a new pope at the Vatican, where only cardinals are allowed in the room because the media lies about everything, absolutely everything. And President Trump yesterday talking about the gold card visa, and it's not a like Visa credit card, but a visa like you need a visa to get into the country, right?
These companies can go and buy a gold card, and they can use it as a matter of recruitment. At the same time, the company is using that money to pay down debt. We're going to pay down a lot of debt with that. And I think the gold card is going to be used by not only for that. I mean, they'll be used by companies. The people that can pay $5 million, they're going to create jobs. They're going to spend a lot of money on jobs. They're going to have to pay taxes on that too. So they're going to be hiring people. They're going to be bringing people in and companies in. And I don't know, maybe it will sell like crazy. I happen to think it's going to sell like crazy. It's a bargain. It
is $5 million for people that can afford them. There are a lot of people that can afford them thanks to free market capitalism, which they're also against. Remarkable stuff. And I've got Elon Musk coming up because he jumped in and talked about what could be done with these $5 million gold card visa options and what they would like to do with it. Actually talking about the national debt for the first time in modern history. And the Democrats are angry about it because of the gender stuff. Maybe their panties are in a wedge, could be uncomfortable. You know that the all-new third-generation Eden Pure Thunderstorm air purifier has finally arrived, and it builds on the incredible success of previous generations. It became a bestseller in no time, 5-star reviews all over Al Gore's amazing internet, the Eden Pure Thunderstorm. And this new Thunderstorm uses 2 different technologies that studies have demonstrated help to kill up to 99.9% of bacteria and viruses floating in the air in your home, in your office. Also removes dust and pet dander and smoke and a whole lot more. And it gets rid of any smelly odor without any filters to have to buy again and again and replace. Self-contained unit. You can hold one in your hand, just like this. The Thunderstorm will help get rid of any smell, guaranteed. Talking litter boxes, smelly shoes, teenager's bedroom. Even left-wing protesters are no match for the Eden Pure thunderstorm. And this week only, when you buy one thunderstorm, you get a second thunderstorm for free. No matter how many you buy, you get an equal number for free. You buy 5, you get 5 for free. See how that works? You can put one in the bedroom, the family room, any place you like to breathe clean, fresh air. All you have to do is go to EdenPureDeals.com and use the discount code ChrisBogo. Buy one, get one. ChrisBogo to get one. It's such a deal because you know me. That's EdenPureDeals.com. The discount code is ChrisBogo. Yes, sir. All right, I've got Elon Musk and more President Trump coming up. And then the rest of the crazy Democrats. I've got Tulsi Gabbard and anti-Semite, pro-Palestinian Democrats taking over buildings and attacking and assaulting people. They're the left. Chris here with a list of things that none of us should trust. The Washington Post, the New York Times, anything on CNN. Here's a list of things that I do trust. The Washington Times. Support real journalism for just $1 a week at WashingtonTimes.com/Chris. And I've got 2 Gene Hackman stories to tell you when we come back, too. One of them a personal story. One of them has to do with fried chicken. I had those stories coming up. But in the meantime, let's go to the telephones, Michael. Let's go to Greg, calling from Rockville, Maryland. Gregory, you're on the Chris Plant Show.
Hey, Chris, thanks for taking my call.
You bet.
I just wanted to say, with the focus on the deficit reduction, that's a good thing. I don't know if anyone saw, maybe you saw, but saw on Twitter the House Republican Conference, the proposal is to tax the endowments of private colleges like Harvard that have endowments over $500,000 and basically lower enrollment. So basically, it would kind of target the endowments of the Ivy Leaguers and assess a 21, basically the corporate tax rate against it, which I think is a fine idea. But I do think ultimately the House bill is fine, and we need the tax cuts to remain constant. But the deficit is still massive, and they're still honestly, they're not cutting enough. So we'll see where it goes. But I like that idea. I think I wondered what you thought
of taxing the endowments of universities. Harvard University has an endowment of more than $53 billion. And they said it's a real estate investment firm. It's a firm, Harvard University is. It's a Wall Street investment firm. $53.2 billion. That 0.2 is $200 million. And yes, we should tax the universities. We should, in fact, Harvard should be taxed out of existence, I think. Know, they're just a racket. I guess they've got a school attached, but like so many of these universities, like George Washington University in Washington, D.C., I think the most expensive university in America, they are money laundering operations. They don't actually educate anyone anymore. They indoctrinate, they brainwash, they invest, and they make tons of money. That's what they're really about. All right, a couple of stories. I think great Hollywood actor Gene Hackman died, and it's a little bit of a weird story, I've got to say. His body was found along with the body of his wife, Betsy Arakawa, and their dog, and they were found, the three of them, dead in their home in Santa Fe, New Mexico. And Santa Fe County Sheriff Adam Mendoza has said to the locals, "I want to assure you, the community and neighbors, that there was no immediate danger to anyone." They're saying they don't know what the cause of death may have been, but with both of them now, Gene Hackman, age 95, and his wife, everything I've seen just says she's in her 60s. They don't have a specific age on her, and that's her privilege as a woman, of course. But the 95-year-old actor who kind of dropped out of acting decades ago and has retreated, lived in this gated community, kind of an artsy community Santa Fe, New Mexico. A lot of that going on in Santa Fe. It's very beautiful there. My best girl and I have been there, and the downtown is beautiful. They've got a big artsy community. It's a great place. But anyway, Gene Hackman and his wife, Betsy Arakawa, and their pet dog found dead in their Santa Fe home because of what little we know about it. It sounds like it may have been carbon monoxide or a gas leak or, who knows, maybe it was deliberate on their own part. But it's too early to conjecture at this point what that's all about. It's sad, naturally, but 95-year-old man and did very, very well professionally and personally in life, I think, and financially. And he was, of course, the star of he won Oscars on 2 different occasions. He was the star of The French Connection, big deal. Popeye Doyle, that was huge. Superman, very, very funny. He was in Young Frankenstein, Mel Brooks, great Mel Brooks movie. And he always seemed to be kind of an interesting guy, a little intense maybe, but kind of a fun guy. And there are a couple of stories that I have to share about Gene Hackman because he died. So now's the time when that's what happens. People talk about you because you just died. But he's probably more than 100 movies and a couple of it and TV shows and big in interviews and everything else. But one of the most successful actors, certainly of his generation, and seemed to be sort of a fun guy. Right now, I've got a couple of stories to tell. First story is this. I was living in Santa Barbara, California, where I lived for 7 years. I moved there just as I turned 19 years old to Santa Barbara, California. Moved in with one of my older brothers, and I was there for 7 years. After I was there for about 2 years, 3 years, I had a friend visiting Santa Barbara from Chicago, one of my old high school friends. And I was taking him on a tour of Santa Barbara from the beach to the mountains and up State Street and Stearns Wharf and the colleges and Santa Barbara City College, beautiful overlook of the harbor in Santa Barbara and great stuff. And I'm touring him around. And attached to Santa Barbara proper is Montecito. And Montecito is a very wealthy enclave. If you head south on 101 out of Santa Barbara, you go through Montecito on your way to Los Angeles. And I was driving my friend through Montecito. Coast Village Road is a quiet little 2-lane road going through Montecito where there are boutiques and shops and a few restaurants. And off the main drag, there are, $25 million houses. Oprah Winfrey has an estate in Montecito that I think is a $55 million estate, and her monthly water bill is $50,000 a month, And a lot of very wealthy people live in Montecito. Now, and a lot of Hollywood people, Rob Lowe's, and a lot of people live in Montecito. And I was driving my friend through Montecito on Coast Village Road, a beautiful Santa Barbara day, probably 74 degrees and sunny and not a cloud in the sky. And we're tooling along. And I was showing him, and I was pointing things out and giving a tour. So I was driving kind of slowly, right, through Montecito. I wasn't obstructing traffic because there's no traffic to obstruct. But on this 2-lane road, Coast Village Road, driving with my buddy from Chicago, when a big brown Mercedes-Benz 4-door car, it was a 450 SEL, it was a very popular car at the time, big enough to be a kind of a limousine, and this Mercedes 450 SEL comes flying up behind me, laying on the horn. Really unusual in Montecito, at least then. Really unusual. And the car came up way too close to my rear end. Didn't have to. Could have easily just gone around me at, 3 miles above the speed limit. But instead came flying up behind me, like almost rear-ended me, and then swerved left to go around me and punched it. And you hear the engine roar, and the horn still laying on the horn. And dude driving the car, in the car by himself, as he comes up alongside me, kind of slows down for a quick moment and extends his right arm very forcefully like he's throwing a punch and extended his middle finger and flipped us off. And I'm with my friend visiting from Chicago, and I'm driving real mellow like this. I'm doing like driving movements right now. And I'm driving along real mellow, and I very casually said to my friend, and there's Gene Hackman flipping us off. And my friend sputtered for a moment and looked at me and did a double take and batted his eyes and said, wait a minute, that really was Gene Hackman. And I said, yeah, Gene Hackman lives in Montecito. And I was real casual about it, like every time I drive through, Gene Hackman flies by and flips me off, which was not true. But this one time going through Montecito on Coast Village Road with my friend visiting from Chicago, and Gene Hackman came flying up in his brown Mercedes 450 SEL and laid on the horn and punched it and came too close as he's passing and no traffic to avoid or anything, and flipped me off very angrily. And I very casually said, and I said, there's Gene Hackman flipping us off. And it was kind of a fun moment. And my friend said, wait a minute, that really was Gene Hackman. And I said, welcome to California, because he had just arrived that day or the night before. I said, welcome to California. And he didn't even laugh. I remember he didn't even laugh. He was just kind of stunned and said, what, that really was Gene Hackman. So yeah, it was. And it's, it's California. It's all part of the fun of California. Now, that's my personal story. It's the only personal encounter I ever had with Gene Hackman. And it was funny. It made me laugh. And my friend later laughed when he was, we went out to get a beer somewhere, and he's like, so I came to California, and the first day, Gene Hackman flips me off, and that was kind of fun. Angrily growling, gritting his teeth and stuff, not smiling and waving, but doing that. I guess he had to be somewhere. Probably headed to L.A. Looked like he had that headed to L.A. look on his face. Kind of a fun thing. And my only personal experience involving Gene Hackman. Now, here's my second Gene Hackman story that's kind of fun. It turns out that now Gene Hackman played in the French Connection, a fun movie. My friend Tony LoBianco was in that movie, too, who just passed away about a year ago. But we became friends. My best girl and I became friends with Tony LoBianco in there, too. But Gene Hackman played a police detective named Popeye Doyle, right, in the movie The French Connection. And he wore a funny hat, kind of, what is that called, a pork pie hat? And pork pie hat, and he was a growling guy and a tough guy and spitting mad all the time and all that stuff. And he played Popeye Doyle, the detective. And it was a famous character and kind of a big deal. And a funny thing still lingers as a result of Gene Hackman playing Popeye Doyle in The French Connection. Because you may be familiar, you undoubtedly are, with a fried chicken place called Popeyes. Love that chicken from Popeyes, right? Everybody loves that chicken from Popeyes. And so you got KFC over here, and you got Popeyes over here. And Popeyes very big in Washington, D.C., a lot of Popeyes restaurants in Washington, D.C. Well, it turns out that the chicken place, Popeyes, is not named for the cartoon character that's strung to the finish because he eats his spinach. In fact, the man that created the fried chicken fast food chain Popeyes named it after the Gene Hackman character in The French Connection, Popeye Doyle. And that is a true story. That's actually true. You can find it. It's all over the place. And I was not aware of this until today, but I looked it up. And Michael Piercy was aware of this. He knew that Popeye's chicken was named for Popeye Doyle in The French Connection. I didn't know that. Michael doesn't talk very much. He would have shared that otherwise. But who is this? This is Real Clear History. Kind of like Real Clear Politics, but Real Clear History. One of several places I found this today. Everyone assumes Popeyes is named for the cartoon character, but the honor actually goes to a fictional 1970s detective. Founder Al Copeland, that's the founder of Popeye's Fried Chicken, named his place for Gene Hackman's character from The French Connection, Popeye Doyle, basically because he liked the dude's style, it says, right? And considering Doyle provided the blueprint for every modern car chase scene, we can't argue. Yeah, you got a little car chase with him in Montecito on Coast Village Road. I should have set out after him and careened alongside and done all kinds of stuff like that. But yeah, it turns out Popeye's Fried Chicken And I got it from more than one source because I didn't even believe it when I saw it coming from Real Clear History, which is fair enough. But the Popeye's Fried Chicken place is named for the Gene Hackman character, Popeye Doyle, in the movie The French Connection, which is kind of nutty, isn't it? And really, and I should have set out after. I don't think my 1973 Honda Civic would have been fast enough to chase down his Mercedes 450 SEL. But there it is. So those are my Gene Hackman my Gene Hackman stories. And I think the Popeye story, the fried chicken place, is fun. That's a fun story. Yes, sir. So Oscar at 95 years old. That's pretty good. Pretty good run. Gene Hackman passed away at home, Santa Fe. Nobody knows exactly why. Was it a gas leak? Was it carbon monoxide? Was it prescription pills he and his wife took? But how do you explain the dog dying at the same time? So that brings you back more to a gas leak or carbon monoxide, since the dog died too. If you're going to do a joint suicide, you probably wouldn't, but you might kill your dog. Interesting stuff. Interesting stuff. All right, let's take a phone call, Michael. Let's go to Eduardo calling from Tampa, Florida. Eduardo, you're on the Chris Plant Show.
Hey, Chris. Hello from Tampa. 70 degrees weather here. Everybody should be down here.
Yeah, well, you don't want that, though, do you?
Yeah. But the reason I called is, this economic boycott tomorrow is pretty ridiculous. It's not really going to have any significance. People are I mean, like here in our area, we're going to have the Strawberry Festival. It is going to be super crowded here. This is what happens when you live in a good state like Florida, where we're going to have possibly our property taxes deleted in the future. So how about that?
You have your property you have no income, no income taxes in Florida right now, right?
No income, possibly no property tax. Yeah, low crime, low taxes. I mean, great weather here. Not that ridiculous Chicago where I came from, where the mayor's approval is like 6%.
Right.
And they have to borrow money, and crime is out of control. I don't regret moving to Chicago. So
yeah, well,
thank God I'm in Florida.
And almost everybody there is from someplace else, right? I mean, everybody is from the Midwest or from New York.
Yeah, Boston, yeah.
Yeah, a lot of New Yorkers.
Yeah, there you go.
Now, are you literally saying that they're talking about, is the governor talking about doing away with property taxes?
Yeah, that's the talk down here. So something they're going to have to run through the legislature, but we'll see.
Wow. That'd make it, the gold standard worldwide, I've got to say. And you did mention Let's Go Brandon Johnson, the left-wing Democrat mayor of Chicago. And you're right, and I haven't even talked about this. I talked about it on my TV show, but I don't think I've talked about it here. Talked about it on Newsmax. But the mayor, Brandon Johnson, the Democrat, has an approval rate of, I believe, 6.6%.
Yeah. Yeah, I heard Maria Pappas, you're from Chicago. You know she is. She's the Cook County treasurer.
Uh-huh.
She would be a great mayor. She would be a great mayor.
Who would want the job?
Run, so.
You'd have to be nuts to want the job.
Yeah. A lot of work to be done over there.
Yeah, there's a lot of work to be done over there. Got a lot of lives to be saved and money to be not stolen. Chicago's a train wreck, and that's because the Democrats are so in charge that they've ruined everything because, as I like to say, because it's true, they're not liberals. They're the left.
Yeah, they pretend to be liberals, but they're progressives. Yeah, that's the actual word to use. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. That's too generous, I think. They're basically commies. They're here to steal everything and ruin everything. And they've got these gender issues and science issues and fiscal issues, and they're nuts. But you moved to Tampa, huh?
Yeah, it's going to be 2 years in May. So I took Mom over here, and my brother was here for 2 months. He went back to Chicago. I told him, do not go back to Chicago. Stay in Florida.
Yeah. You haven't talked him into it yet.
I'm still working on it, yeah.
Well, it's still winter there, so maybe when spring comes, we have daylight saving. We spring forward, next week or close to, coming up soon?
Next week, yep. Next week, yep, there you go.
That'll be good. Well, listen, Eduardo, congratulations, and keep me posted.
Chris. Yeah, great show, and have a great weekend, everyone.
Thanks, buddy. You're great. And keep me posted on that property tax thing. I want to hear about that. The man who would be vice president, Tim Walz, the Iraq war hero Democrat, governor of Minnesota, he's in the news today. He was caught saying things because everybody has a recording device on them at all times. And Tim Walz, not very bright, but he's a little... is he doing the Hitler salute here? It looks like he's doing the Hitler salute. Tim Walz. We'll get to Tim Walz shortly. Right now, let's go to the telephones, Michael. Let's go to Eric, calling from Woodbine, Maryland. Eric, you're on the Chris Plant Show.
Hey, Chris.
Hey.
Good to talk with you.
Welcome.
Hey, I have a new isn't. Hey, thanks. I have a new isn't or aren't.
Excellent.
Progressives aren't. How do you like that?
That is absolutely true. Like the Democratic Party isn't, right?
Correct.
Friendly
right.
fire isn't. Common sense isn't. And you're right, progressives aren't.
They are not. What did progressives use to light their homes before candles?
Electricity.
Yeah. That's right.
Yeah.
I use that all the time, Chris.
Is that right? Do you? That's a great joke, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
It
is.
It's less and less a joke at this point because, but it is very funny. Is that right? You use that? It's one of my. I love that joke.
Well, it's funny. It's funny because it's true.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, what did Democrats use to light their homes before candles? Huh.
I love that one.
Electricity. Yeah, you're right. And that in the name of progress, they're setting us back culturally and technologically, scientifically. You know how many genders are there? There's no male, no female, no man, no women, no boy, no girl. The Democrat Party is, what's the phrase I'm looking for, Eric? Mentally ill.
Correct.
Very correct.
Mentally retarded.
Yeah, it is. It is truly amazing what has become of the Democrat Party. And speaking of which, since you brought up all this stuff, I've got Tim Walz, who was chosen to be the vice presidential running mate, Kamala Harris. Where's Kamala? They're going to make her governor of California, and then we're going to have to let them join Mexico or something like that. What do you hear this Tim Walz thing coming up? Thanks, Eric.